What's up, guys? Dan Kohan here with Ryan Haywood of Heritage Home Investments here in St. Joe, Missouri. And we've got an awesome interview for you today where Ryan is going to share his story of how he's just started very recently and in just a couple years has built up a big wholesale and rehabbing business up here in St. Joe. And he's going to share his story, how he did it, how he got started in just a couple years, doing hundreds of transactions, him and his wife and his team. And we're going to talk to him, and he's going to share all of his secrets and what he did to get where he's at. Ryan, how did you get started? When did it happen, and what made you take the journey to start your own real estate business?
So there's two starts to our real estate journey. The first one was an accident, in which we had a house. It was our very first home. We bought it in 2008. After a couple kids, you start realizing you need more space. So we identified a second home. We thought, okay, let's just sell home A and we'll move to home B. Home A did not sell. For a couple months. We just sat on it. And I had always had like a fascination with real estate, but I didn't really know anything about it. There wasn't as much information back then as there is now. Books weren't as free access to information as it is now. So there wasn't, to me, it was just like a curiosity of what is real estate?
Right.
What would it be like to have a rental property? Right. Since we couldn't sell house A, it was like, okay, let's turn it into a rental property. We contacted a local realtor who offered to do property management services for us. We got it rented, and it has literally had like the same tenant since 2013. That was the real first start, but we went from that moment, which was 2013, to 2018 without doing anything else. We didn't buy anything. It was me working my W-2 sales job. And in 2018, we had that itch to, I think I want to get another rental property. I think that I'm doing the numbers, and you're starting to see people online on YouTube like doing stuff with real estate. So I'm like, let's add a couple more doors. And so we start looking at like what's on realtor.com and what's available on the MLS, and reached out to a couple friends. Well, one of these friends wanting to part ways with these things. So I told him I'd be interested in buying it. We presented the deal to a banker referral. Somebody gave us their name. We showed them the deal. We were able to work out buying these two properties through a bank with no money out of pocket. There was no closing costs involved. The way that we did it was kind of creative, and I would have never in a million years put this deal together in my own head. But what we basically did was worked out a way to make the down payment directly to the sellers through negotiation. When we went to the bank and said, okay, this is the numbers, we were able to basically present to the bank we've satisfied the 20% down directly with the seller. And the bank was the one that came up with the idea, and I'm like, oh, that's
You're
fine.
Like, whatever they say.
If they're a premier bank, then they're gonna know what they're talking about. So we did that.
So explain that. How did you actually give the down payment to the seller?
No, it was just a price adjustment. We basically adjusted the price. I think would have been $20,000 less than. So we were going to the bank. The original purchase price, I'm gonna say, was $200. Instead of the full price, we need $180. We've already paid $20,000 to the investor or to the seller, but really all we had done is came to the agreement that the appraisal was here, and we will pay here, and they were happy with that.
Got it.
And the bank was happy with it too, because it did appraise for what that original price was. So we would have been able to get exactly what we needed for it, but we didn't have the $20,000 necessary to make a down payment. So that was like the catapult. Then we went from having one cash flowing door to 5 cash flowing doors, and the cash flow on the other doors, they're both duplexes. So instead of like $250 a door, we were pulling like $800 per unit plus our little single family home. So
what is it, 2 duplexes then?
2 duplexes, yeah. So we quickly went from making like $175 a month in cash flow on our single family home up to about $1,900 a month, and I'm like, hey,
there's something here.
Yeah, there's some way to make a living out of this. So then fast forward to 2019, things with the W-2 world were just not comfortable.
Right.
Sales worlds are they present challenges.
For sure. Yeah.
One challenge that I was experiencing, and not tooting my own horn, but when you're a successful salesperson, they're constantly looking for ways to lower their costs, which is so backward. Like, if you have a guy in sales making a boatload of money, that's a really good thing for you, because you're making way more than they are.
Right.
So that was kind of the trend. It had gone on long enough. We had baby number 3 on the way. I had started paternity leave, and during the paternity leave is when we felt like it was probably best to explore an option outside of the W-2 world. My wife, Megan, had found a Instagram Max Maxwell's 30-day wholesaling challenge. And we had seen a couple other people doing wholesale and actually quit their jobs as a result of wholesaling.
Like people you knew?
Yeah. So I was like, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And then we found the 30-day challenge, and I'm like, well, this would be a good way to do it. 1 week, we had identified our first deal. And then week 2, we identified our first buyer, and we assigned our first property, and I think we made $7,500 on our very first deal.
Just in the second week.
Second week into it. So that was the moment I'm like, holy cow, I just made exactly what I make in a month in 2 weeks.
Right.
And for fairly minimal effort. I mean, I wouldn't say it was a cakewalk, but I wouldn't say that I don't think I put as many hours in doing this as it would. Yeah,
more, you know,
like I was at home with a newborn and 2 other kids, so like, and it was around the holidays, so I was like, it was like a passive way of, I'm gonna go do my driving for dollars, get my leads. I'm gonna find my list of cash buyers. I'm gonna cold call, spend 4 hours a day doing it, and then landed a $7,500 contract. And that was, from there, I'm like, okay, that was easy. Now I just need to replicate that.
And did you get that lead from just mailers and
driving,
or what?
We used, as part of the 30-day challenge, it was using a deal machine for driving for dollars.
Gotcha.
Which is the practice of going out and finding distressed properties and identifying them, sending them postcards, and honestly, you're kind of, once you go and send the postcards, then you're kind of just waiting for them to call you back.
Right. It's it's not like it's an active way, but it's definitely not. You're not like calling and trying to, really.
No. Now there is a point where you could, start picking up the phone and dialing. If you're not getting a response out of the postcards, you could start cold calling, and even through Deal Machine, there's a way to skip trace the number and cold call it right then and there. And we started doing that, and there's so many things that have evolved since starting that have doubled and tripled our business. And like simple things, doing exactly that, cold calling, driving around and cold calling while you're in front of the house. Like that is, I don't know if there's a wholesale god out there that shines his light on you, but we have seen success in being in front of the home, cold calling, and then being able to tell them, no, we're here, we're right here right now. Because a lot of reluctancy from cold calling is there's so many remote wholesalers
for sure
out there that these people get calls and calls and calls every single week. But
The
then
owners
they
of these
find,
properties.
the owners that they just get bombarded with, not just with calls, but with mail too. So after that first deal got done, we went into month number 2. I think we did 3 deals. Phones started ringing, the postcards were working. Everything was doing what it was supposed to do. And then we went to a conference. So going to We Live 2020, which was Max Maxwell's conference, we were able to pick up a ton of tools from there that really gave us a kick in the pants as far as like really accelerating on the wholesaling world. So while we were actually there, the 3 transactions closed while we were at the conference, which was really cool because I'm like, we are here, and back home 3 transactions closed, and I think we pulled $30,000 on those 3 combined
in commissions.
In 1 month. I mean, that was month 2. It was like, so here we are.
This is like you just started.
Yeah, we just got in it, and we're up to 37.5 in like 45 days. So it was like huge. But then we realized like how we could replicate this over and over. In year 1, it was just me going and driving for dollars all over town, going, and I identified a couple other markets. We went into Kansas City. It was just a lot of hustling all the time to try to get it, where we were building consistency. Then we brought in, actually we found one of our cash buyers that I quickly identified, like, you're doing way too much. Like, you need to bring in another person. And so we brought in a transaction coordinator.
Okay.
So I would go out and get the deal, and they would send the paper to the seller. I'd go and find the buyer. They would send the paper to the buyer, get all that
like
to the title company. Yep. And then coordinate the closing, which took a lot off of my plate. Like, cut what I was doing in half so I could really focus on doubling up the business. So in year 2, year 1, I think we did 75 deals. Year
75 deals in the first year.
Yep.
Was that all wholesale, or were you rehabbing at that point?
We did one where we purchased one of the deals ourselves. It was $1,000 deal.
Like, it cost $1,000?
Yeah.
The house cost $1,000.
The house was $1,000.
Incredible.
It was a nightmare rehab.
Oh, okay.
Nightmare rehab. That was also like cutting our teeth as investors. That was our 6th at the door. I mean, we were really excited about it. While we were at the conference, we learned ways to gain capital. Other than wholesaling funds, like, we had learned how to get corporate credit.
Okay.
And how to utilize corporate credit to rehab a house. And so we did that, but we also really went through it with contractors, like baptism by fire, like all the wrong things we did. Like, we found all the worst contractors that you could possibly find.
And the whole St. Joe.
And all of it, yeah. And it was, at first, is like, we just need to get somebody to do it, and everybody's busy. So this guy said he would do it. And we paid him like way too much money for what, I think we paid him like $12,000, and basically all he did was demo the house. Right. And other than that, it was like constantly calling him, hey, where are you at? How much of this is done? Didn't ask if he was licensed on anything. Like, didn't pull permits, did nothing. And this house had to have complete, like, all the floor joists needed to come out. They were all completely rotted. Most of the studs were all gone. We ripped everything out to the studs and to the floor joist, rewired it, replumbed it, put in new joists, but like, got it halfway and then had to cut that guy off, and then found another guy who had a little bit more pep in his step, but still wasn't like enough to get us across the finish line. It was like, he got it to a point where I'm like, okay, I think I can finish it from here. And I painted, and I put in flooring, and I put in cabinets, and I put in toilets, and I did all the things that everybody says don't do it yourself. But at this stage, it's like, the only way I'm getting this done is me doing it. It took us 9 months to get this job
Jeez.
done. We spent $55,000 in the rehab. Saved it because we did do a lot of the work ourselves. So all in, we're at 56. It appraised at 95. It's a 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom. We got it rented. The very first, this is 3 years ago. The very first tenant is still there, paying $995 a month. Our mortgage is like $350. So picture perfect on Burr. House is amazing. If anything, it is the poster child of our entry into the Burr method.
Yeah.
But it took, on top of doing that, I was still wholesaling and doing 4 or 5 deals a month,
right?
And rehabbing a house
at the same time,
and had a newborn baby and 3, total of 3 kids.
Yeah, all your time is going into these things.
So, like, it's crazy to even recap this story because I'm like, how on earth did I make that? Like, going back September, we were supposed to move our first tenant in, and we were not, like, sheetrock hadn't been painted, flooring wasn't in. So they wanted to move in September, and we had to turn them away. And they were a Section 8 housing, so we had to basically lose out on a Section 8 tenant. And that was when it was like, okay, I have to let this contractor go. I'm gonna go in there and get it all done myself. And I had friends, luckily, that knew how to do a lot of work and were very helpful. And I had an electrician friend that came in, pulled the permit, showed me everything to do, gave me the right wiring, said do this, pull it here, and then I'll finish it. But because of that, saved me a lot of money.
If you guys are enjoying all this value, guys, go ahead and hit the like button down below real quick. So did you know how to do any of those skills?
Yeah, so I did some trades work in high school. I had taken some classes that taught trades and home repair and maintenance, and did small jobs with family growing up, and even owning my own home, like, learned how to put new flooring in. Obviously painting is in and of itself. Learned how to put light fixtures in. I was a big book reader even then, which I hated. To recap, hated books, hated reading in general in high school, but source of knowledge was there, so I was able to pick up a lot just reading books on how to do certain things. So that gave me a little leg up on.
Yeah, it looks like right over there next to us you got a big old stack of books.
There, yeah. Gigantic tote, stacks of books on the shelf, and there's so many more at home, but there's so much information out there on how to build a business, how to wholesale. Dude, the books that we've read have been, and the people that we've paid attention to on social media, on Instagram, we've met a ton of people through Instagram, a ton. Then we joined a mastermind. We got into Collective Genius. Then your eyes are opened even more to people that you kind of feel like, at the time I didn't really know the gravity of 75 deals in a month. I had nobody to compare it to. I had no idea. Or in a year.
That's a lot.
I had no clue. But then when we're in a mastermind with guys that are doing millions of dollars a year in real estate, and they hear that you did 75 transactions in a year, they're like, do what? And then I started feeling like, oh yeah, I got a ton of money now. Year 2, we went, and I think we pulled close to 130. It was like 127 deals. So we did another smashing year in wholesale. But that also introduced us to bringing in employees, and we started to identify bottlenecks, because early on we were selling deals to people that did not have contractors or had contractors that they would bring from out of state. And we started quickly finding people would want to buy, but they did not have resources to fix. And we felt a little bit more responsibility in our hometown to not just sell them and let them sit there, but to sell them and ensure that they get fixed up. And so then we started organizing crews. And I think we've got 6 crews total that
Okay.
are revolving jobs now.
Wow. So you have a construction company, basically.
We have a construction company. We have actually one crew that is just us, just our own guys. But then we're subcontracting the other 5 crews that are doing about 2 deals every 6 weeks.
Okay.
So that gives us the ability to keep recycling business in our own doors. So I can assign a deal, I can fix the deal. Then we provide leads for property management so that they can get it managed and rented, and then they just come right back to the beginning and buy another one and repeat the process.
Fully integrated.
Yep. So that was the goal, and we're still growing. I mean, dude, growth is tough.
It is really tough.
Like, it was so easy to just wholesale by myself and do 5 deals a month. So easy. But you're going to get to a point where you can't sustain that.
No.
Or you'll run out of, unless you can figure out a way to get remote and you're going to spend more time doing it, you'll find yourself in a position where like it's not as easy because you've saturated a market, you know. And then you have to start digging a little bit deeper. Then you add having a pandemic,
right,
and people freaking out, and some of our cash buyers completely stopping, selling everything they had and leaving.
Really? Yeah, and that's one thing. You basically started it in the pandemic.
We did, yeah. In October of 19, and then the pandemic started like 2 months later.
Still did 130 deals.
Still did smashing numbers with that.
Might even have done better.
At times I've wondered, like, what would it have been like if those circumstances weren't there? But I'm glad that they were, because I feel like if we can make it through that, I think that we can make it through a lot of things. So, but right now, growing is the new. You identify a new bottleneck every single month.
Right.
Like originally, it was finding buyers and properties. Those bottlenecks we solved. Then it was how to provide help to these guys that are buying and don't have crews to fix them up. So then we solved that bottleneck, and then the bottleneck is how do we get more crews, because we're doing so much volume in wholesale that we can't keep up with the constant stable of properties that need to be rehabbed.
Right.
So, and then we go into all these CG conferences, collective genius conferences, and then you see guys that are building even more and doing other things, and I want to do those things too, because I know that's part of growth. But I feel like now we got to tighten all of the processes have to be very streamlined, very tight. You have to introduce new people into your business. You have to hire more people, to the point where I literally sometimes don't even know what properties are closing.
Right. There's so much going on.
There's 5 deals a month getting closed, and I could not tell you the address to one of them, which is different because early on I knew everything. I had a running list of exactly every single home and exactly every single penny I made on every deal. Now, if it wasn't for having systems like Podio and Deal Machine, I couldn't tell you. Other than I see the closing checks coming, when it's time to go to the bank, I'm like, wow, we did another 7 transactions. That's great. But in the course of time too, like in our market, starting out, there was, and there still is, a ton of vacant houses that are boarded up.
Right. I mean, I'm just driving through, and
there's lots,
endless amounts of them here.
But at the same time, there was more, believe it or not.
Really, there's more than
and we have flushed so many properties back out. Here's an interesting piece. Last year, at the beginning of this year, the local news put out a statistic that they'd seen a 30% increase in people paying property taxes. And I'm sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, 30%? We've done about 30% of the homes in St. Joe.
So you're probably
and we've cleaned them up. We've got them rented, and we've got them in the hands of investors that do pay their taxes. And so we're giving back in multiple ways. We're giving back to the appearance of the community. We're giving back to the citizens that have to rent, and need a good, clean, solid place to live in. But we're also giving back to the city, and they're getting tax dollars from these properties that were not getting tax dollars before. and they're just sitting, and these people are not they're not mowing.
Yeah.
They're not paying the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of deals that we would get would have like 2 years worth of back taxes. So.
And I guess it's like, what do they do? Because if they take it to the auction steps, they're probably not going to do anything anyway, you know?
So, yeah, there's a ton of people that go and buy properties at the auction because they're getting them for, you know, oh, I bought this house for $500. Yeah, but does it have a lien on it?
Mm-hmm.
How do I find that out? Well, like, there's so many more steps that, honestly, tax sale became kind of an issue for St. Joe because these guys would get deeds to houses from courthouse steps because of tax sales, and then come to find out it's not so easy you can't just start working on that. Mm-hmm. There's sometimes a 3-year process on a house like that. So to me, I'm like, why not we just go out and offer cash and get houses, get clean titles, so these investors don't have to fool with that. Mm-hmm. So, and I've even considered like going to the tax sale myself, picking them up, letting a few of them run through the process, and then having an extra pool of houses to do. But I know that also you could just get a hold of the owner,
just buy it from them.
Just get it directly from them and say, hey, I'll cover your back taxes. Mm-hmm. Find out the tax delinquency list and just start attacking it. So, you know, that again, that's another piece, like scaling. For the first 2 years, we literally used deal machines, driving for dollars. That's it. Mm-hmm. We didn't do a single thing else.
All you did to market.
That's all we did. Even now, it's predominantly the most successful one that we have, driving for dollars. And yeah, you're driving the same town over and over and over, but you'd be surprised at how many properties come up, or you just start changing your buying criteria. You know, you just, instead of looking for houses that are boarded up, you just look for houses that have full mailboxes, or houses that look like there's an older 3-tab roof. It doesn't necessarily look like a completely rundown house, but what we've found is that there's elderly people living there that they want to get out of it. It's paid off. Here's what we need out of it. And I'm like, this is a turnkey deal. Like, I can get this thing cleaned up in 3 weeks and have it rented in no time. Yeah, they're higher prices. I'm not selling $5,000 houses. Now I'm selling $50,000 houses, $60,000, $70,000.
Still cheap.
Still cheap
relative to the overall market.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, some guys they drool over the fact that they can get investment properties bringing them that much cash flow for that cheap. But again, we created our own monster.
Yeah.
In the sense that they could do it, but hey, I need somebody to go in there and turn it. Do you have contacts? It's like, well, I have 2 guys and they're busy. and here we are now, year 3. I think we're close to like the 90 deal mark for the year.
Already?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the first 7th of September.
Yep. But it's so different than what it was when we first started out. The deals look different. The transactions look different. The way that we make money looks different. Like, there's a wholesale fee, but then there's also income that you're making from the rehab.
Right.
So, in a sense, we've doubled our revenue on each deal from just being wholesale to now it's wholesale plus construction.
Yeah.
So, and we're paying 2 contractor employees out of that. We've got we've got an in-house acquisition disposition team. So there's lots of hands involved making the business.
So what does the business structure look like in terms of your team look like now? Because you've got, you're doing quite a few, let's just say 130, 150 transactions a year plus the construction. Like, how many full-time team members is that plus the contractors?
So we have 5 full-time team members.
Does that include like your wife and stuff? Or?
Yes, myself, my wife. We've got 2 working in the construction that are turnkey employees. So they just go in, they do the light fixtures, paint, mini blinds, flooring, all the easier things. Nobody's replacing sheetrock or anything like that. We have other people to do that. And then on wholesale side, we have 1 employee that's really kind of handling acquisition and disposition. In our market, it works. In other markets, you need to have 2 people. But with our market being as small as it is, 1 person can really do it. And we're getting ready to rehire, because even that person's overworked on the sense that they're doing transaction coordinating too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to bring in a new transaction coordinator to help alleviate some of the stress time that's on that one person.
Gotcha.
So for myself, my wife does pretty much, she is our COO, so she is looking over the business and trying to help us stay organized operationally. But she does all of our marketing. She takes care of the social media, which is great. She puts the flyers together and emails them out to buyers. And then myself, once you get to this point of a business, there's a lot on the back end as far as systems, financials go, systems go. We've got 34 doors now, I think. Okay. So and some of them we self-manage, so that's a whole side of it too. Right. But somebody's got to make sure that like the project management happens and that people get updates on properties regularly and they can see what's going on to make them feel comfortable with working with you. So
for your clients that you're actually doing the rehab for.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep. So that takes a lot of work, and right now that's kind of where I'm the putty that's filling all the holes. Right. So hopefully as we grow and as things get a little bit more smooth, that'll identify more opportunities to hire, which will alleviate us and enable us to look at new ways of growth. Because there's a lot of ideas and a lot of things in the real estate world that we could be doing that we're not. And now where we are as a company, it's like, let's do this. Well, in order for us to do that, I've got to break some time off. So anytime you add something new, you're just giving yourself a new thing to babysit for the next 6 months. Right. So
if you could leave like a new viewer, like I think I called you the other day and asked you, because I'm trying to start up, wholesaling and everything. Like, what advice would you give somebody looking to start a wholesale rehab
I'll say
business?
The exact same thing that I told you. The most important part, the most effective thing was to find one thing to do, one form of marketing, and stick with it until it's giving you results. Okay. If you got a 16-ounce bottle of water and you've got 4 cups that you have to fill up with only 16 ounces of water, you're only going to be able to put a little bit in each cup, which isn't going to do enough to do anything. So we focused on strictly driving for dollars. We would send between 250 and 500 postcards through Deal Machine every single month. We would go out and drive neighborhoods every single month and make sure that we're adding new leads every single month, but the phone was ringing. Right. There was no need for me to go outside of that realm and look for other ways to market. I didn't need to do bandit signs. I didn't need to have a cold caller. I didn't need to do Facebook ads or anything. What you're really doing is you're just putting your attention in too many different spots that you can't do any one thing good. Right. So I would say for anyone that's interested in wholesale, just find what would work in your market. And I'm a huge advocate for mail. Look, people still check their mailbox every single day. Right, I do. You still get bills every single day. Right. You get a water bill, you get a power bill every day. You're gonna go to the mailbox and see what's in there, and they're gonna see your postcard. Right. And if they want to sell or they're interested in selling, they're gonna call you. So I would highly recommend it. I would also say stay local. I know this is counter. A lot of people love virtual wholesaling, but I would say you're going to be a lot more successful if you're the boots on the ground. You're local. I was so against the idea of putting my face on any of our marketing. I was against it 100%. I did not want people seeing my face. Right. Now we've got a picture of my family on our postcard. Right. You know how many times people call and they'll say, we want to sell to you because you have a beautiful family. We see your picture. We know you're local. Like, everything points to keep the business local. Yeah, for sure. People want to help out the community. Exactly. So that was huge. Changing that one little thing, which was a tip from a Collective Genius conference. Somebody said we put our picture on there, and I'm like, wow, I hate doing that. But does it provide results? Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. It got more deals out of that. And so Yeah, man, I would say strongly focus on the area that you're in.
Okay.
Go and drive in your neighborhoods. Find the properties that need identified. If the postcards aren't working after you've sent 250 postcards, then I would say take those 250 leads. In Deal Machine, you can literally skip trace with a button. You just push the button, and then you can just call that. You've already got 250 leads. Mail didn't work, cold call them.
Yep.
And just work that lead list until you'll get one deal out of that. You're gonna get a deal out of that. And then being able to know, like, wholesale isn't the only way to dispose of a property. There's so many now ways that you can owner financing.
Yep.
You can do subject to.
Right.
You can wholesale it. There's a number of new things to do to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say those are my key takeaways for any new person looking to wholesale or just grow. Like, focus. If the growth isn't where you want it, chip some of the stuff off of your plate and focus on one thing. Get it tight, then move on.
Makes sense.
So if you spread yourself too thin, you're never going to be able to put enough focus on the things that make you money.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to get a hold of Ryan and his team, his wife and stuff at Heritage Home Investments, you can find them on Instagram at heritage_home_investments, or you can check out their website, heritagehomeinvestments.com. If you want to start investing in the Midwest and St. Joe specifically, they've got a ton of deals here. And like he said, they can help you find a deal and fix it up and manage it. And so check him out, give him a call. We'll put his cell phone number information in the description, so you guys can work with him. He's a really great guy. He's helped me a ton. I called him for half an hour the other day. He just shared everything with me, super transparent, super great. And guys, if you like this interview, go ahead and hit the like button down below this video and the subscribe. And comment if you have any questions or want to get interviewed or anything like that, guys. And with that, I will see you guys in the next chapter.